Hello, it's Crafty Carol here with yet another little video for you. And a little bit different this week. I'm not making one particular card or making any fancy folds just for a change, although I've got a great one next week. But I'm actually going to talk about what we can do with all the bits of DSP we end up with. We have the most beautiful packs of DSP. This one is the Bright and Beautiful that goes with one of the sets in the new catalogue. Gorgeous colours on it, lovely, but we end up with loads of bits when we start to use it. So I've got bits here, sometimes they're big bits, sometimes they're small bits, like that bit there in this in colour pack, or they're sometimes strange shapes because I've got things out of them. But whatever, we end up with loads of bits of DSP. So I want to just give you a few ideas that you can do using DSP, and I'm actually going to use to make up the cards, I'm going to use the Go to Greetings set, and I've already stamped some of these, and I've stamped these in Versamark on black card and embossed them with white, and then just fussy cut round the edges with my scissors. You notice I'm not going too close, I'm not making it terribly beautiful or anything like that. I've just vaguely cut out these. You can cut them out very carefully or just roughly like me, and they still look great on a card. So my first idea, where shall I start? I'll start with this one here. One idea, and there's various ways to do this, is just simply to cut little squares of your DSP that you've got left. And I like to try and make sure I've got a mix of the patterns and a mix of the colours that I'm using. And there's various ways of doing this. These squares I have cut to 1.5 inches. A 1-inch square, you can actually put them all out on a card looking beautiful, and you'll get 4x3, you'll get 12 little squares if you want to do that sort of card. I like things not to be just quite so regular, if you like. So I tend to cut out all sorts of different squares, and then I just put them on the card randomly. So I'll show you the sort of thing I mean. So I vaguely got them in some sort of order that looks right. So, don't know what that is. Little red spider mite, I think. There's an awful lot of them around at the moment. Got to be so careful with them actually, because you can you end up with them squished on your card and they don't look very nice because they do make a mess. So I'm just going to very randomly stick these on, and really anywhere I want, and I don't want to just come down the card because that'll look too regular. So I'm just going to be random. So every card's different that you make like this. Let's have pink there, and we'll have the other yellow near the bottom. So yeah, I think we'll have that side of it. So you can see the sort of thing. I'm just being very, very, very random with it. Very random, and that's fine. You can do what you like. These are all the in colours, so they do match. They do go together. I rather like doing things like that. Using the colours that we have in the colour families, I think, is quite nice. So, yeah, I think we'll have which side should we have? We will have that side. Yeah. That's the biggest problem, is actually deciding which side you want to use. And then my final bit of fresh freesia. There. So these are obviously retired now. They've just retired. I think we'll have that, difficult to know, we'll have that here, just overlapping those like that. So you see what I mean about just making it random, and then really simply just to finish off a card, which should we have? Let's have just a note. So I'm just going to have that, and again, I can sort of stick it anywhere really. I am going to use, if I can find them, my dimensionals. Just use a couple of small ones on this. Just so it sticks up. You can stick some of the bits of paper on dimension. You can do it, just doesn't really matter. And I think we'll have it just in the middle there. And there we have, I haven't even folded the card yet, look. My bone folder. So there we have a first card just made with scraps. Now I can add a few gems around there, make it look quite pretty, but that's one idea. And you can do a similar thing with strips. So these are strips from the Bright and Beautiful that I've just cut. And again, I'm just going to put them on randomly. I tend to put darker colours at the back because I quite like light colours. So these strips are just cut completely randomly. There's no particular length or width. I don't want them too big, because too wide, because they take up too much card if I'm doing it this way. So these are roughly 2 or 3 centimetres by, well, anything between, I think the smallest one's about 7 and the biggest one's about 9, but it really doesn't matter, because again, they're just going to be random all along here. And so it will have this one over here. So it really, I'm not planning this at all. I'm just sort of sticking them where I think they might look good. Does that make sense? So I might get it wrong sometimes, but you know what? It doesn't really matter. I think we'll have the yellow in the middle. Again, you can put some of these up on dimensionals if you want. I'm just sticking them all flat. Have to think about postage nowadays. It's one of the things that annoys me, that postage is so flippin' expensive if you've got anything that's a big thick card, which is really annoying. So I tend to just use 1-dimensional layer, because that will go through in the normal post. So let's have the stars about here, I think. So you can just play around with it. And again, let's make this a birthday card, shall we? Yeah. So I didn't want you to watch me doing all of this embossing. I'll do a whole video on embossing and having fun with that at some point. So there we go. And there's a quick birthday card. So you can see how you can use up the scraps, but you can of course do lots of other things with them. So that's 2 cards very quickly made. And then you can do things like just sticking full strips on the card. So here's some more bits I've got, and I can either do these are wider bits, as you could see, and I could stick them on like that. I can wrap some ribbon round and then stick my my sentiment on. Might do that actually, quite like that. Or you can cut all of these the same length as in this one. Now for this piece, this isn't stuck on a card yet, but it will be. For this, I've cut this piece of basic white. Obviously, I've got my basic card blank, which is 21 by 14.8, scored at 10.5 in the middle. So just fold that in the middle to get my card blank. And then I've cut a separate piece of basic white for this one, and I've cut it just a centimetre less, so it's 10 by 14.3. And then the strips of DSP that I've cut on this, these are, I can't remember how wide I give them. They're by 13.8. They are 3 by 13.8. So 3 of them just fit nicely in with a similar gap all around the side. So I stuck those to my piece of white card, and then I ran it through the embossing folder. I used the Cane Weave embossing folder, and it just gives that DSP a bit more interest because it's got the texture. So that's beautiful, and you can use that as a base for your card. And again, either just stick a sentiment across. You can put ribbon around it, or you could actually put some sort of focal image there that matches this. I could put balloons, for example, from the balloon set. That would look rather nice on there against that. So that's another idea, using strips to stick on and then embossing the whole thing. That gives a beautiful effect. Strips again on this one. On a strip I can wrap ribbon around, do something fun with that. Again, I'm not going to do that one because it's very similar to the one that I've just showed you. But you see what I mean about you can just play. So these are much thicker strips than this one, for example, and you get a completely different card. But I'm just using up scraps I've got, which is daft because I've got so much DSP I don't really need to use scraps. But I was asked by one of my wonderful craft people that comes to my craft classes, and she said, oh, I'd love to have ideas to use up scraps of DSP. So this is the way I think you can use them to make cards. So that's another one I could stick and make up. And then perhaps you've got bigger bits of DSP, and these again might make it quite interesting card. So let me get another card blank. Still got a couple here, so we just wrong way around. There's a lot of argument about which way you should actually fold when you've got a crease in a card. I personally like to fold it towards the valley bit of the fold, but it doesn't really matter. It's which way you've cut the card, I think, is more important. So you get a nice edge to your card. You don't get the cut edge of the card. I don't know if you can see that the cut edge is very slightly raised. When you cut, the sort of reverse edge, the down edge, is very slightly raised, and I always have that in the middle of the card. Anyway, let's not worry too much about that. So we can use big pieces to actually cover the cards. So for example, here, I might cut this one nearly to the length of the card. So that would be 14.3. And this one's got a directional pattern. So what I might do for this card, for example, is cut that about here. I don't know what that measures. I'm just going to cut it off low, so I've got a gap at the top and the bottom. And for this one, which has got the pink going the other way, the pattern on there going the other way, I might stick it across like that across the card and trim it to that length. Play around, have fun. You can't go wrong with DSP. If you're using DSP from any of our packs, it all coordinates, so you can put any of the patterns together. Don't know what's on the reverse of that. We've got flowers on the reverse of that, so I could use that. Ooh, those are nice flowers. That almost makes that is actually a card front of its own, isn't it? But see what I mean? You can play around, you can try different things, mess around with your DSP. Have fun doing it, because it is great fun. So I hope those have given you some ideas as to, let me leave that one there, I haven't stuck it down, but you can get the idea. I'll even put there you go, got a sentiment on it now as well. I will stick that one later. Not going to cut those just yet, so I'll leave that one to the side. So there's this one. I haven't stuck this on, but same thing. I'd probably, on this one, I would want to put some sort of image on, probably a couple of birthday balloons or something like that. And this one, I think these two are just on their own, just absolutely fine. So I hope that gives you some ideas for playing with your scraps of DSP, what you might want to do. As I say, you can add all sorts of things like gems, you can add little cutouts, you can play with it, but just try. All I would say is when you've got packs of paper like this, stick to matching the papers together. Don't try and mix between packs. It's much harder to do that and make it look right. But if you stick to papers all from the same pack, they all coordinate and you get these beautiful cards that take like 2 seconds to make, as you've seen. So I hope you enjoyed those as ideas, and I'd love to see what things you come up with. I'll be back with more ideas for DSP next time. See you soon. Please do subscribe if you like this channel to watch all my videos, and you can find all the details about the cards I make and sign up for my email so you never miss anything on my blog at craftycarolscards.co.uk. Thanks for joining me. Bye for now.